Hello all, welcome to the Consistently OK podcast, a podcast where we dive into all things pop culture related from comics to films and everything in between.
Look at me. I'm the captain now, or at least until Luke wakes up. So everyone, welcome once again to another episode of the Consistently OK podcast, a show that blah blah blah, something about setting the bar really, really low. Whatever. Anyway, my name's Harry, as you know. Luke's unconscious, and Nick is tied to a chair. So let's see how this goes. Good. Talk to me.
How to start this? So now that Luke's gone, we can discuss the real stuff.
The meat of the movie.
Yeah. Left for the best one. So
this is just my plan from the beginning, was to just slowly just force Luke out, and then it'll be my podcast. So you're also on the block. So like, if this is the first time this will happen, but eventually you and Luke will both have to go. It will just be left with me.
It's just going to be
steer
you.
this ship.
Yeah, talking directly into a camera and microphone. Intensity.
Yeah, it's going to have video as well as audio, because obviously people need to see this face.
Intense.
Anyway.
Okay, so I guess because Revenge of the Sith is all three of our favorites, I think we should just dive into like why it's our favorite. And I think probably the best place to start for that would be the start, in that.
Yeah, we probably match in opinion as well. So if we just go around it chronologically, we'll have we can bounce off one another's opinion of it, because I think otherwise you'll just be saying yes, and I will go yes, I agree. So
yeah, I think very much the opening is still one of those things that, like, I remember seeing it in the cinema and going like, wow, this is amazing. It's just intense. It immediately drops you in. It's just crazy. And
I remember the camera angle. It starts off being really cool as well, though. Are you like underneath the ships or something?
Yeah,
they cross over, don't they?
Yeah,
and then you follow the starfighters.
Yeah,
whatever way it is. I think you're looking down.
Yeah,
because there's the classic shot they always do in Star Wars with like a Star Destroyer coming into shot, and you basically it's sort of the same thing, but I think it's two-star. Is it two-star destroyers crossing?
I think it is two, because then it reveals like the whole battle, and you're just like, oh my god.
Yeah, and then they're like side on. Yeah, they're going side to side with the droid ships and things.
Yeah.
Something like that, like big frigate shot, isn't the shot?
Yeah, and the score's great. It's just instantly you're just in this position of like, oh fuck, this whole thing is kicking off, and it's a very engrossing, and for me it kind of sets the pace of the film in the same way that I was saying Attack of the Clones is kind of slow and it trudges through what it's doing. I think Revenge of the Sith is like just foot on the pedal from the start. Like, it never really lets down. It's like keep going, and then at the end it's just like absolute crescendo. This is everything.
I would say at this stage, though, I think that a lot of like what Luke said earlier, a lot of the success of the third film is that the plot is essentially already written. Where everyone knows it's the point where Anakin's got to go bad. So it's just how you lead up to it. It's obviously been written really well to like pace the way you say, but the plot I don't think was ever an issue, because you know it's going to start with the ending of the Clone Wars. So you've just got to you've got to connect the dot between how the Clone Wars end and how that fucked Anakin. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not saying anyone could have done it, but I feel like that's the easiest plot of the three to have written. Yeah. But the payoff is great. Like, it's a really solid.
I think
film
that's
anyway.
The thing as well is, like, even though you know what's going to happen, like going into it, you know the big thing of Anakin falling. It's still done in such a way that you're like, this is so intense, and it's heart-wrenching, and I think partly is because of that pace that from the off it sets this pace that it's building and building and building, and it doesn't let you down, in the sense that when it does happen, it matches everything you want it to be, and it's a little bit more, I think, in that I'd always kind of thought of, the moment that Anakin changes, it would be, I never thought of it being like an emotional thing between Obi-Wan and Anakin. I always thought it would just be like a brutal, that's why he went so dark. But it's brutal in the sense that visually it's savage, and also emotionally, like, their relationship is heavy. And I, going back to the start, it dovetails in the start of it is very much them working together and them combating through this battle and going to get Dooku and all this stuff, and then it ends with the two of them against each other. And I think it's a nice mirror that they've kind of got there in terms of the story.
It does show the full sort of swing, doesn't it? Because, like you say, it starts with that. They're very much still a unit.
Yeah.
And then very quickly the film manages, and the thing is, it's quick, but it's done very quickly, rather, throughout, 2 hours worth of film.
Yeah.
But it feels correct, doesn't it? It's very well paced.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel rushed.
No, God, no. The pacing is perfect, and I think the opening, it sets that.
Maybe that is like thanks partly though to a lot of the things the other two prequels did. Like, you've already had a lot of the ground. I mean, obviously you've laid a lot of the ground already, but I think the third one doesn't have to sort of explain a lot, because you've already whether you like the other films or not, you've basically been given an introduction to all of Anakin's struggle, essentially. Yeah. So the only new struggle in this, of course, is that he believes Padme is going to die, which is obviously the big one. But like it's I think the success of the emotion between Obi-Wan and Anakin is because you have seen them on screen now for 2 films, and you've seen them both age. Like, Ewan McGregor looks like a child in the first one, like so young when you rewatch it, and then obviously in the second one he's kind of bit of a beard but older, and then it's well done with obviously makeup and things and the way they've styled him with like his beard and that, but you do feel like even though it's only they've been released over the span of a couple of years, you do feel like it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, it works really well.
That's something that I definitely would give it credit for, actually, in the sense that with something like Rings, which I mentioned earlier on, with that, I guess because that was like a yearly release. I'm pretty sure that was like one in 2001, one in 2002, one in 2003.
They came out quick, yeah.
Yeah, whereas with Star Wars, it was like one in 99, one in 2002, one in 2004, 5?
I don't know. I'm so bad with dates.
Let me just double check, but I think Revenge of the Sith might have been 2005, which is like a 3-year gap between Attack and Revenge, which is a long... Yeah, it was 2005. So it's a long break between those films. Wow. So, so I feel like, again, it does do that in that you do feel like you've been on a longer journey with these characters.
Maybe as well, it gives you a little bit of time to sort of get over anything you didn't like about the last film as well. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you're not going straight into the next film carrying any negative weight, because I feel like I definitely was with the sequel, the newest trilogy of Star Wars films, because I really disliked
Last Jedi.
Last Jedi's, yeah. And then it was so soon it felt that I watched Rise of Skywalker. I was already carrying the baggage of the things I didn't like. So I was almost like ready to not enjoy the film. It's like, if you know what I mean. And I think Rings did really well because they were all great. So whatever the gap was going to be, it would have been fine. There was nothing I had against any of them. But with, like you say, with the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, there's the two like iffy. It's like a rocky start. It's not hate. You don't hate it, but you're not fully like, that was a 10 out of 10 film each time. I think the gap between Clones and Revenge of the Sith is long enough that you're just going into it with the things you liked or knowing where you're picking up from. And because the plot, you already know what the plot is before you watch the film. If you know anything about Star Wars, you're not worrying about any of the things that have been, other than the parts that are significant to the plot, which don't offend you at that point anyway. It's not like you have to carry, like I wouldn't be carrying over any of the cringe I thought with Padme and that, because that's been done, and it's relevant only to the point that they're in a relationship. There's nothing, the CGI can't haunt you a film down the line if they fix it, which they did. It's way better in Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. So it's sort of like you go into it with completely fresh eyes because it's had a good gap between. I feel like it sort of healed itself for a lot of people.
Yeah, you're probably right there, and definitely, again, kind of reiterating the kind of opening scene here. I think the opening scene is very much a reflection of that. That it's just after Attack the Clones, which is very, like you said, the plot of it is good, and it's a clever storyline in that it does set up how everything is going to play out. the execution on it means you sort of trudge through it. But then Revenge of the Sith is just bang, straight away open. Here's an action scene. Here's the death of Dooku. Here's Grievous. Here's the downfall of Anakin. And then it's just basically straight into like, here's Anakin, Obi-Wan. It's pretty quick to kind of go through everything, but it does it at a great pace. And I think because you've got that time away from the slowness of Attack of the Clones, it hits you even more. That you almost go into the expectation that you're like, this is going to be a little bit slower until the end, but it's not. All the way through, it's just this kind of bombardment of fuck kind of moments.
Yeah, it does have a really good pace throughout.
Yeah. I think the other interesting choice is to kill off Dooku so early. In that, I mean, it's within the first half an hour of the film, maybe even the first like 20 minutes.
Did you see it coming when you watched it?
I don't know. The first time, probably not. The first time I was probably like, he'll die at some point, but I didn't see it coming so quick. Again, talking about poor kind of dialogue choices, Revenge of the Sith does have its downsides in that I do think the dialogue in that scene isn't the best in that.
Yeah, there's some rope, isn't there?
Yeah, I think the minute, Anakin goes to kill him and some guy who's supposed to be like a politician, senator guy is like, execute him.
Pulling strings.
You wouldn't, wouldn't you be a bit like, what? Like that's...
Yeah, that did jump out as a weird decision, Anakin. I can't think of a scenario where I've got my worst enemy on his knees with no hands. Let's add no hands, no weapon. I've got his weapon and my weapon crossed across his neck, ready to cut his head off. And I've paused because I thought, I'm a Jedi. Like I don't just murder people. And then like some politician who I know since I was a kid, but not really like a dad or anything, just goes, do it. I think my brain would go, nah, what? I don't think it would just push me over the edge to cut a guy's head off. But, he's got to go downwards. So
I think at the very least,
maybe that's why Anakin's Anakin.
Yeah. There would definitely be a conversation there of like, wait, can we just talk about it?
What did you say?
Like, did you just tell me to murder a guy?
Yeah, and the thing is, he goes, even like retorts, and he's like, I shouldn't, it's not the Jedi way. What does he say? He just say, do it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that is enough, which I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that he is like a hidden Sith Lord and he's got some sort of power of mind over him. But yeah, it did seem too easy, didn't it? But I guess they had to push it somehow.
Yeah, that's probably like, I guess the downside of that quicker pace is that stuff like that isn't necessarily fully fleshed out. Yeah. Especially in the way that it happens as well, like where it's like Obi-Wan and Anakin go in and then Obi-Wan just gets like thrown and like is knocked out effectively.
There's a very poor bit of CGI actually then, which we haven't thought of, when like Count Dooku sort of pulls down that bit of bridge
and it like
Obi-Wan, and it shoves him across the floor. It doesn't look great. Yeah. And also the size of that bit of stuff he pushes onto him, it would just crush him. Yeah. It's like that's not just like a shunt across the floor. That's your flat. Like Obi-Wan would be in a wheelchair for sure. Like man, it's hectic.
Yeah, but it helps to get the rest of the film. I think that's the thing. It's like that is like a poor moment, but then the stuff that you get from it that is because of it is much better. You can kind of sort of forgive it for just how good the rest of it is.
Yeah.
So
it's where it leads more so.
Yeah, definitely. And again, there's no kind of like Anakin Padme weird romance stuff in this really.
It just feels natural, doesn't it, in this one?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing about their romance that, what did I say before? I can't remember the wording I used, but yeah, it's just removed, isn't it, from what you saw in Attack of the Clones. It's not too like heavy. It just feels natural.
It definitely feels like it's just an integral part of the story. It doesn't feel like an add-on or like a.
I mean, I'll completely retract if it was the case that if that was the angle they were taking, because if it was that they wanted them to be like immature and silly, and to move on to the next chapters and be quite serious, then all the credit to Hayden and
Natalie Portman.
Mine's gone blank. Natalie Portman, for acting it, because it comes off like that.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I just felt like I connected more with it in Revenge of the Sith. But Yeah, that works solidly throughout.
The other thing that Revenge of the Sith does well is that it gives Palpatine the spotlight for a lot of it. In the
Yes.
he's always the player in the background. Even in Return of the Jedi, he's still the guy in the background who's like, you're so focused on Luke and Vader's storyline and their fight and stuff.
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith is very much like Palpatine's moment to shine.
Do you know what I remember as well? When those films came out, I knew that Ian McDiarmid was the same actor who played the Emperor.
Yeah.
And like, obviously, if you know about the plot, you're like, that's who that is.
Yeah.
Shit, he's the hidden Sith. You sort of know all along. But I remember my older brother didn't believe it. I was like, no, Ian McDiarmid. I was like, it's the same actor. It's like, it doesn't mean he's playing the same character. Like, they can recast you as someone else. I was like, yeah, but he's like the hidden Sith. And my brother did not, honestly, this is not a joke, he did not see it coming.
Mental.
He didn't realise Palpatine was the Sith Lord until he confesses it in the film. He looked at me like, what? And I was like, 2 films ago, mate, I told it's Ian McDiarmid. 8-year-old me, having watching Phantom Menace, is like, oh, that's Palpatine.
That's Palp.
And then second film, like, it's definitely Palpatine. He's involved in everything. And then the third film, you're like, because you get all those little snippets of him in like the robes, it's like it's Ian McDiarmid's face, obviously. So it's, and then my brother's like, nah. And then like even at the end of the second one, where you see him like stood on the podium and all the clone troopers are there, and it's like, this is just a reflection of the Emperor and the stormtroopers, right?
Surely
and
that's
my brother's
the
like, yeah, my brother's like, he's a politician. What are you on about? Like, Tom, mate, the name drop shamed him live. He had no idea, and it's like, until he has the one-on-one with Anakin and literally confesses he is the Sith Lord.
At
My
what
brother's
point?
there, just like, what?
So like literally the scene with Mace Windu. It wasn't.
Yeah. So
oh my god! It wasn't even like
when
the
Anakin
do it
goes to
scene.
see him. No. When he goes to see him, and he's like, what's the line? He says, he's like, my mentor taught me everything there is to know about the Force. And he's like, even the nature of the dark side. And he turns and Anakin's like, you're the Sith Lord. That was when Tom like snapped. He was like, what? 3 solid films, constantly me telling him it's the same actor, pointing out all the shots with his face, being like, obviously Ian McDiarmid in a hood. Come on, like that's the Emperor. Nope.
I mean,
at least
until
then.
At least the film surprised someone,
Oh, I bet it absolutely took him off his feet.
Yeah.
But I don't know how he didn't notice it. But
amazing.
So there was one person in the world, at least, that
Crazy.
didn't realise Palpatine was the Sith Lord until Anakin did.
Speaking of that scene, then I think we should discuss like that kind of the shift of Anakin in that scene, because I think again that's something that's really well written in like the scene between him and Anakin and Mace Windu, that it's just Anakin is so far gone, and the reasoning of Mace Windu being like, can you not see this? And it's just like he's blinded by this fear of death, this fear that's like, I don't want to end up losing somebody I love again, which I think's a good motive as well. Like I like that the motive that they settled on with Vader in terms of like how he becomes Vader is the loss of a loved one.
It's selfless, isn't it? Which is good.
Yeah.
It's not like a quest for his own power. It's, I mean, beyond the point of saving someone, but it's only for saving someone else.
Yeah, and I think
it's noble.
It really holds up with the whole like lineage storyline, in that when you get to Return of the Jedi, you're like, of course he's going to turn back into being Anakin at the end of Return, because it's that same thing that it's like, he lost somebody he loved once, and now he's got 2 kids, and it's just like, he could still turn and be good, and so that fight is there for him. It's a nice mirror. I think that's the thing that Revenge of the Sith does so well, is that it mirrors a lot of the moments in the original trilogy, that it's just like it's giving those moments on the other side. So I think that scene is just such an integral moment to kind of point out and say, I think it really dives into the complete turn of Anakin, also gives you the best Emperor moments, the I'm weak. It's like the perfect meme.
Yeah.
It's just...
It is. Do you know what? It's funny because I watched the film and I sort of... There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it is so easily presented into meme format. And that film gives us so much meme.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. like scene by scene, there is a meme.
Yeah.
That rhymed. I did not pre-plan that, but oh man, it's good. And most of them are Palpatine. Let's be honest. And I don't know what it is. It's not like bad acting or anything like that. It just literally is so. Yeah. It's just so quotable, and the lines are so they just fit into like any scenario. So. Like you can literally cut and paste it, and it's like you could just dump that into a conversation. So
the amount
people
of
who make memes,
I've seen where people are just doing the "I'm weak" and then followed by like unlimited power. It's just it's genius. It really is gold.
It is good.
But yeah, so I thought that was really cool. Jumping into that as well, Mace Windu. I feel like again probably. I mean, he gets some spotlight in Attack of the Clones, cuts Django's head off. Pretty cool
moment, isn't it? Yeah.
In this, going toe to toe with the Emperor, pretty.
Yeah, well, as well, he's sort of Anakin's Jedi nemesis, isn't he? Because he's very anti-Anakin, which I'm totally on board with. Because I would be if I was on the Jedi Council. Like, what, this kid just gets in when he's too old and all the rest of it. He's kind of like a rule breaker just because he's the chosen one. So yeah, I totally get Mace Windu being a bit of a dick towards him, but that's why it's so good as well, because there's the redemption thing, and that's where Anakin like double fucks it, because he kind of like he gets to that point where Mace Windu's like, right, if what you're telling me about the Emperor, or well, about Palpatine, is true, that he's the Sith Lord, you've gained my trust. And it's like, Anakin, mate, you've righted everything, like everything's on course to be good and well, because your dream's just a dream. Although, like your others came true, it doesn't necessarily mean it will. It's a premonition, but it's what will come true if you go down the darker path, which he doesn't realise. So it makes a lot of sense that he comes back and ends up nailing Mace Windu.
Yeah.
But there is that point where you watch it and you just like, when you know what's going to happen after you've seen it the first time and you know how it goes down, you rewatch that scene where he's like sat in the council and all the Jedi have gone off to get Palpatine, like, and if Anakin had just stayed there, everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
And you're like,
but that's
gutted.
That's like the smartness of that writing. Like the script is that it's just, that film is full of those moments where you just like, if he'd chosen one thing differently, it would have changed everything. But the path that he goes down, you can understand why he goes down it, you can relate to it. But at the same
you'd be the same. Imagine being like crippled by paranoia of having had a lifetime where all your nightmares come true. Like your mother dies the exact way you dreamt it, and like all your premonitions. And then you get to a point in your life when you've got past that, you're now doing well at what you're doing. And you get a premonition that the only person left that you really love is going to die in a specific way that you've dreamt about. Because it is childbirth he dreams about, isn't it? And he knows she's pregnant now. As well, because it comes up when you're in his shoes, when you've revealed who the big bad is, you found that much out. That's another piece of his life as well that's toppled, because someone he looked up to turns out to be the baddest man in the universe. And then like you're told, look, you've gained my trust from someone who didn't like you. He's basically on top of the world to write everything. If he does nothing, and in doing nothing he feels he's going to lose the one he loves. So obviously, if you're sat how he was, alone with your thoughts, while someone's going off to deal with a problem, deal with a bad guy who is the only person who knows your secret and has told you that he can resolve it, you probably do the exact same thing.
Totally.
Maybe not show up and take out Mace Windu, but you're not going to just sit there, are you? So, and it probably would all eventually lead down the same way, ripples in a stream and all that.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's that kind of seeing that fight scene between Palpatine and Mace Windu is very much just the last straw in Anakin making the decision to go down that route. And so it's like, fuck. Going off of that as well, do you reckon, because they keep talking about Mace Windu being like in another series or something, like bringing his character back, do you reckon he died? Do you reckon?
I mean, like, you look at it and you're like, he's having your arm cut off or hand, not going to kill you, like, that's fine. And he gets electrocuted big style, and you're like, that's usually a certified death. But it's Star Wars. Plenty of other people get electrocuted. Like Luke gets electrocuted by them Force lightning for longer than Mace Windu does. So you're like, yeah, sure, that's probably not fried him. But then he does get tossed out of a
across the
window
city.
that's like a million miles high. So my instinct is like, he's dead. But I'm not against the idea of him being alive, if you know what I mean. Like, if you look at what the rest of the planet's like in all the other films when they're on Coruscant, it's all very high. So he's got a long way to fall.
Yeah.
So
Do
being a Jedi Master, maybe he can pull some shit out the back.
What I've always
Dunno.
kind of thought about it is that if they did bring him back, like, I don't think they'd do this because I think it's a little bit too dark, but I really like the idea that if they
Make
did
him a
bring
baddie,
yeah, but
anti-hero, yeah,
because,
for sure.
but because he's got amnesia, like that the attack, like both the electrocution and then the throwing across Coruscant, left him with amnesia. So he sort of
Just
wakes
that little wound,
like not knowing who he is, and then he gets involved in like the seedy kind of underground of Coruscant at the time of the rise of the Empire. So it's like he's just got to kind of build his thing, and he becomes like, I'd love to see, in the sense that if they did like a Crimson Dawn series and they followed the Darth Maul kind of underground crime syndicate, wouldn't it be really cool if one of those other syndicates that's running is Mace Windu, and you'd be a bit like, fuck, because then it also
see it working at a dark angle, yeah.
A really cool moment where like he remembers who he is or something, and that would be such a touching moment to just be like, fuck,
He just goes off on one and murders everyone in his
Yeah.
in his syndicate, because he's like, these are bad people.
Yeah.
I am not. I mean, it'd be cool. I'm like I say, I'm not at all against the idea. I love Samuel L. Jackson, and I think he was a really cool Jedi. So why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
I think
anything is justifiable in sci-fi, isn't it? Let's be honest. Like,
Yeah.
they've done crazier twists than people dying, like big style, and brought them back. So yeah, why not? Like, I'd be up for it. I wouldn't be against the idea. I think my logic says he would have definitely died, but inside I'm like, yeah, fucking bring him back. I'm not gonna freak out.
Could it be cooler, like, if he rocked up in the Obi-Wan series? Obi-Wan's like, where you been, mate? And Mace Windu's just like, dude, you would not believe the shit I've put up with.
Mate, I kind of like it, but at the same time, my vision of the Obi-Wan series is very skeletal. I like the idea of it being bleak. Do you know what I mean?
I do as well.
Because essentially he's isolated. But we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to Sam Jackson stepping back in and doing something with it.
Just before we go into the final bit of Revenge of the Sith, because I really want to talk about that final fight, because it's like the go-to emotional core between friends and brothers that I always talk about. I think it does it so smartly. The Obi-Wan series, I think it's probably a good space to kind of talk about it. Like, we did it a little bit on the last podcast, but I think because Revenge of the Sith is so close to what they're going to do with the Obi-Wan series, I mean, you've got Hayden Christensen back. I assume as Vader, but that
was a big bit.
But it could be like flashback to Clone Wars as well. You know, they could do bits there. But
he still looks super young, so do whatever they like.
In terms of that series, I think you and I have talked about it before, where we both said it would be cool if it was a little bit like Logan, in that it was like, you know, that kind of the loner on his last kind of mission, his last thing that to kind of get him through. I don't know how much they're going to go down that route, and in my head it's really hard to take Obi-Wan from Tatooine, because he's there to look after, like, to watch over Luke.
Yeah.
Like, how much can you give Obi-Wan room to explore on Tatooine? How much can you do on there?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because, like, I think there's a lot that could go on, because they can do what they like with Tatooine. The place is crazy. Yeah. But yeah, it does ground him a lot. And I think it would work with a plot like if it was Logan-esque, like we said, because it's quiet, and being in the desert is quite desolate. They can easily run with that. But then it's like, what do you do within those confines to not make it, for it not to be boring? Because his mission's not going to change throughout any of it, because he's just looking over Luke. So what happens in between? I don't know. I wonder if they bring Darth Maul in and do a live action version of the scene where he kills Darth Maul.
Possibly. I mean, like, the setup for that.
Yeah, I didn't. Was it Clone Wars or
Yeah. Oh no, it might be Rebels.
I
It
don't
must
know.
be Rebels.
I only
that
saw
they do it.
I've seen the clip, but it's basically Darth Maul.
Yeah, it is
rocking
Rebels
up and-
actually, because it's after the Ezra thing. I wondered that too before I watched it, and then when I saw it, I think it would be too hard to write that in to the series without it kind of like jarring a little bit. I mean, they might do it, but I think it would jar
Okay,
too much
yeah.
with what they do. I like the idea of with Vader, if they did it as like in the same kind of like parallel of Logan being haunted by like what happened at the mansion and being around mutants. I'd love it if Obi-Wan is haunted by
Yeah,
Vader, but
yeah, that'd be clever.
I don't know how it works considering they haven't encountered each other again. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, true.
I do like the
I
idea
feel like
of that
one
being
that
like
they could also. My big one, I think, is Qui-Gon Jinn. I think that should be integral because it's a big point that Yoda makes, where he's like, "I can teach you how to communicate with your old master."
Yeah,
that's got to be in there.
Yeah.
I know Liam Neeson said he's open to it, but hasn't heard anything yet. But that means nothing. That means you may as well be in it for all intents and purposes. Like spoilers, you're not going to drop a spoiler yourself, are you? So I feel like that's got to happen. And then the Darth Vader thing, I'm sort of like, I don't want him to meet Darth Vader because I feel like it would detract from A New Hope where he meets Vader. It's like I want that to be his first meeting. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like his first time meeting him, and that's it. I feel I wouldn't be opposed to Vader being in it, but I'd more have it as like almost like a what's the word, like a back and forth between mental thing, like they use like within the Force. So maybe Anakin is Darth Vader, but to Obi-Wan he's presented as Anakin.
Yeah,
and then
kind of like the
vice
Kylo
versa.
and Rey relationship kind of thing, like the talking through the Force.
Similar to that. Yeah. I think I'd like that because you could have a constant battle of like him basically fending off Vader from finding out where he is, which could be something like, say, that the Qui-Gon's tutoring him how to do. Which could be interesting because then you've got an arc of like learning with Obi-Wan, because otherwise, because he is a Jedi Master, so it's like there's not really a whole lot to learn.
Yeah, to kind of like develop there. Yeah.
So, but the only thing like still to learn is how to become a Force Ghost, right? Because that's the last thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like there could be a lot of
that would be really cool as well if like a lot of that series is about Obi-Wan like accepting death, like coming to terms with becoming a Force Ghost, embracing that's his next step and not knowing when. But
it could be very bleak, but it's just wondering how far Disney will take it. Really, because you don't want it to be depressing, but I think if they made it hopeful, which they very much can, because there's nothing finite about becoming a Force Ghost. It's not like you're dead.
Yeah,
you're obviously just carrying on. So I think there's a lot you can do with it, and based on the way Disney and Pixar present a lot of their emotional content, no doubt they'll figure it out. But I feel like that's the angle I'd take with it. If I was presented an Obi-Wan spin-off series, I'd be like, it's got to be the Qui-Gon thing primarily, and then see where that goes.
And I think bringing this into the prequels talk, I think their relationship is integral to giving almost that emotional core for Obi-Wan, because talking about that last fight, that fight is built up of like, it's an amazing looking fight. Like it's so quick, it's so visceral. I remember reading at the time as well that digitally they had to slow the fight down because the actors moved so quick that you couldn't quite see it.
I know they've rehearsed. Like what you see in the film is like slowed at points or something because they rehearse so aggressively.
Yeah, and you can really see it,
which is great.
Yeah, it is like there's a connection there, and they're both giving it their all. And I think it just, if they can bring that essence into the Obi-Wan series and kind of maintain it, I think it'll be something really special. Because with TV, TV is such a focus on character, it's such a focus on developing these kind of characters that you follow across 6 episodes, 8 episodes, whatever it is. If the essence of that fight scene is in the TV series, I think they're onto a winner there, because that fight scene, every time I watch it, it's just...
There's one point in that fight scene that I find very jarring.
Okay.
And it pains me to say it because I don't dislike it, but it's one point where I just think is there for purely for demo is there's a part when they both get up on a table and instead of going to strike, they both do like some flurry thing, and they're like spinning their lightsabers and spinning them behind their back. And so they do like a load of spinning with their blades and then connect. And it's like I'm 50-50 whether like that's an excellent demonstration of like nerve to see who breaks first. Like they're drawing their weapons, they're doing some fucking crazy shit and being like, who's gonna go, and they go at the same time, or whether it just feels like they put that in to show off. But I don't hate it, but it's like it's the only bit of the whole combat where I'm like, I don't really know what they intended with this.
I think visually as well, there are bits where it stutters, but I think the bulk of it is incredible, especially when you get like that shot where the two of them like swing at each other and then they both like grab their hands and the lava kicks up and it's just there's so much like struggle and animosity in it. It's just so...
Tell you what, you also get the I could be wrong, but what feels like the longest cinematic leap of all time is when there's that like section like that, going over the waterfall, and Anakin like even my brain goes, it's ridiculous, but I get so amped every time I watch it because it's so good. But you just like the things tipping over the waterfall, the lava waterfall, and the beam he's right on one end, and as it like swings over, he just runs the whole length of the beam and lunges like 2 football fields down the fucking lava river, and you're like, yeah, that's obscene, but so. And the best part is it's not even that he does that, he then lands on like a little droid, like it's like a hovering platform that's about a foot wide, and you're like, man, if this guy isn't the chosen one, I don't know who the fuck is, because that is single-handedly the greatest like acrobatic feat I've ever seen in anything.
So impressive. I think as well, like when you get to the end of that fight and Obi-Wan,
it's exhausting, isn't it? You do get to the end, you're like,
but when Obi-Wan gets the high ground,
that was a dumb move, wasn't it?
Yeah, and their dialogue, that is some of the best Star Wars dialogue. I think the back and forth between them, it's just so strong.
It's the emotional chosen one thing as well. That's
and he's like delivers the "you are my brother" line, and you're just like, fuck.
Did you ever play the? I mean, I played it on PlayStation, but I'm sure it was. I think there was a game for PlayStation 2. It was the Revenge of the Sith game, and you could play the last fight as Anakin or Obi-Wan, either or, and you could do. There was a cinematic they did for the game where you win as Anakin. So if you played as Anakin and beat Obi-Wan, it showed you what happens.
I remember that.
It kind of ruins all of Star Wars because Obi-Wan dies. I remember that being quite fun. Them just chucking in like a.
That was a cool game actually. I thought it was pretty good for like a kind of video game movie tie-in. I remember playing that a lot and really enjoying it.
It was decent, wasn't it? Yeah. It was quite satisfying. I remember, I mean, let's not talk too much about the video game, but I do remember playing the parts where you'd attack the droids at the opening of the game, and it was really satisfying how, I mean, they didn't cut up exactly how you cut them, but they sort of fell to bits and like scattered about the floor. I was like, that was cool. It was a satisfying game.
But when you get to that fight scene as well, and he delivers the kind of "you and my brother," I think that was the first time that it was like I'd thought of their relationship. I mean, at the time when I was younger, I didn't really think of it at all. I was just like, this is epic. But as I got older, I then started thinking, I was like, their relationship, it's sort of easy to kind of take it as like father and son, because Obi-Wan is older than Anakin in episode 1, and there's that a real gap between them, and then it sort of doesn't seem like there's as much of a gap in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. But when you get to Revenge and he says that, it's like, oh, they were brothers. It wasn't a father-son thing. That was very much like they weren't friends. They were.
I tell you what's a really good thing to watch that summarizes this whole point, and summarizes all of Star Wars essentially, is on there's like the extras for the Mandalorian. There's a directing, I think it's a director's episode, and there's one where they are all round a round table. And is it Dave Filoni?
Yeah.
Is it Filoni? Or
Dave Filoni. Yeah.
Filoni. Yeah. I didn't know if I was pronouncing it right, but Dave Filoni sits there and he basically explains. I'm not going to even attempt because he did it so eloquently. He explains essentially the whole father-son
dynamic thing.
Plot, the dynamic that runs through all of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it was one of the only things I've seen which it made me completely content with everything being the way it is.
Yeah.
For like just for like hearing someone explain
Yeah,
it.
I know
And
exactly.
it is anyone who's listening to this who hasn't seen that needs to just watch. I mean, first off, watch The Mandalorian. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But second off, watch the extras and watch the director's one where Dave Filoni explains it, because it makes Star Wars okay. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with Star Wars, but it makes all the things which you question make perfect sense. Yeah, it's such a good analysis.
He really gets it, and I think
he silences everyone. I remember all the. It's like afterwards, he thinks he's lost everyone.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, did I go too deep?" No, you basically just took like 4 minutes or less. It's probably less than that. It's probably like a minute, and you summarize Star Wars and like what it means in nothing. And that plays into what you're saying, like the dynamic with it, where you assume it's like a father-son thing, but it's not, because Anakin's never had a father.
Yeah,
and it's like the plot essentially condensed what Dave Filoni says is that Anakin becomes that figure that he's never had, essentially.
Yeah,
it's good.
It is so smart, and like when he breaks it down like that, because I remember watching that, and like you say, I suggest to everybody who's interested in Star Wars, go watch the Gallery series on Disney Plus, because it's such a fascinating look at the creation of something that is Star Wars, but it's something of Star Wars that connects every part of Star Wars, whether that's the new trilogy, the original trilogy, or the prequel trilogy. It does so well to join them all together. And Filoni's comment about it shows you just how it connects. And it's hearing it from somebody who's writing on one of these shows who just understands it from a base level of going like, Star Wars is a lineage thing, and everything is connected.
It does make you wonder, like, you sort of watch him say it and you're like, shit, did I ever understand Star Wars?
Yeah,
like,
it really is.
You sit, I was quieter for longer than the other directors are in the video, because there is like a pause after he says it, because he thinks he's just spun everyone out, like he's gone too nerdy, and they're all just sat there in awe, like, oh my god, you've made sense of 9 films now in such a short space. Well, no, he only rediscusses the prequels and originals, so it's 6 films worth of explanation, and he condenses it into nothing and makes it, and it's so perfect. And I remember I was there after watching, and I sat for like a solid 30 seconds, just like, oh my god, like, that's genius. And I'd never looked at Star Wars with the same perspective before Dave Filoni said that. So, and it plays a huge part in what you're saying about Revenge of the Sith, with the brotherhood.
It's
dynamic, because Obi-Wan, like Dave Filoni says, isn't a father figure, and that's the reason why he could never save him, because from the off, Obi-Wan never wanted to take Anakin on. He's like, it's another. He considers him like another pointless. He says he considers he's another. I picked up another useless life form. He says it about Jar Jar, but another useless life form is the initial useless life form he believes is Anakin. He says it about Anakin because they've picked up Jar Jar. Sorry, so he's basically he didn't want Anakin on board from the off. So it's like he is a brother figure, not a father, and it's why he fails him, essentially.
Yeah, and very much so. It's very, very intelligent in its kind of design, but I think that's something that doesn't hit until you're older with it, and you sort of like have processed it in a different way, I think.
It literally didn't hit till I'd seen the Dave Filoni thing for me. Like, I always remember watching it, and I never misunderstood anything. I loved the way it was presented, and then I just never seen it from that angle, and it makes everything make so much sense when you hear it. But watching Dave Filoni's comments aside, it's an intelligent ending, and like I said initially about the film already having kind of written itself, they really ramped it up when they did the emotional sequence between Anakin and Obi-Wan, because it wasn't what you expected, if you know what I mean. It was sort of they took it to a new level as far as like the emotion of the ending goes.
Oh, they really did.
And having brothers like you do as well, it's you can you can see yourself in the same shoes, because I mean, my brother's never gone out and killed a load of kids and gone that wayward,
as far as you know.
Neither of them. Yeah. Oh god. But like the dynamic of brotherhood is like something a lot of people can familiarize with. So when you're presented with something that's gone that south for reasons which neither of them really had any control over, it's so much more sad. Sad to see. It just detaching completely from like what is Star Wars, just as like a tale of two brothers. You're sort of like, yeah, it doesn't really get more raw because neither of them could have helped anything that they did. It's not like Obi-Wan could have done anything different to make the situation smoother, and it's not like Anakin did anything wrong, because if you were in his shoes, you'd probably do most of the same things. And it does. It packs a punch when it comes to a head. Yeah,
I think it's fair to say that Revenge of the Sith is something that both of us, and I think Luke would probably agree if he was here, if he hadn't abandoned us.
We'll never know.
Left our heart. He said at the start of this podcast there was an us, but it's just me now.
This is where as like your camera just wobbles and I see him like he's in shot. He was like next to you the whole time.
So on our podcast, this is new for you since you've last been on. We came up with a consistently okay podcast rating system.
Okay.
So out of 10 okays, 5 being consistently okay, what would you give each of the prequel films?
Okay. I'm gonna say okay a lot now. The Phantom Menace, I would rate that as consistently okay. That's as 5 okays as it gets for me. That film is consistently okay, and if it weren't for Darth Maul, it would be 1 okay. But something about that character and me just having got older and allowing it to exist, because do you know what? I loved it when I was younger. I grew to dislike it, and then now I'm like an old enough person that I can sit back and go, do you know what? Yes, it's 5. It's consistently okay. This is a Phantom Menace. Should we move on to? Are you doing this as well, or?
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Like,
yeah,
you do. Okay, I would give Phantom Menace 3 okays.
Oh, it's nosedived.
Just because for me it really is just the Duel of the Fates scene and Liam Neeson.
Oh yeah, of course. How did I not mention Liam Neeson? But yes.
Yeah, I think those things will give it the okays, but otherwise consistently okay for me is I can watch it and go, yeah. Phantom Menace, most of it I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. Well, that's fair, because I think I could watch that and go, yeah, sure. So yeah, I stand by what I said.
Good.
Based on your appraisal, I feel like I've gone into this blind. Like I've not done this before, so I don't know if I'm doing it wrong, but I'm going to stick with it. I think consistently okay, and you're going with 3 okays.
3 okays.
3 okays. Okay, then Attack of the Clones. Shall I go again? I'll go first. I would give. I feel Attack of the Clones is better than Phantom Menace, personally. I prefer it.
Okay.
For all the reasons I previously explained. So I'm going to give Attack of the Clones 6.5 okays.
Oh, so specific. What gives it the 0.5? What's the
seismic charge?
7, but what gives
the seismic charge? It would be a consistently 5 okays generally, but something about the inclusion of Jango Fett and everything that comes with that, and me actually really enjoying the plot, I'm going to bump it. I'm going to bump it to 6.5. So it's 6.5 okays for Attack of the Clones.
Good. I'd give Attack of the Clones. I was going to actually no. Do you know what? I was going to give it a 1.
I was hearing 1 then. I was like, that's
but then I started to think,
I was like, that's the noise you make before you say 1.
But actually, you did change my mind on it in the sense that I think you are right. The plot of it works. I think the
vindication.
So I will give it a 2.
Okay. I was thinking maybe I'll bump to 3, but it's not enough.
I think that works.
Okay. Wow. 2 okays. I wonder if maybe I'm being too generous, but I'm just sticking with it. I'm not backing down. I've said it. Okay. And Revenge of the Sith. this is tough because I don't want to go in hard here because I know I gave 6.5 and 5 respectively, but I don't want to go. I feel like it was a lot better than Attack of the Clones, and I'm not going to do this out of as filming in general. Actually, this is just out of Star Wars. So as far as Star Wars goes, I think Revenge of the Sith is, heck, it's as close as it gets, isn't it? I'm gonna give it. Oh, I'm torn between two. I'm just gonna give it straight up 8 OKs. 8 out of 10 OKs. That's what I'm gonna give it. Yes, done.
Strong.
8 OKs.
I'm going for a 9.
I was torn, but I'm sticking with the 8.
Good. Yeah, the 9 for me is just, it's like you were saying and kind of elaborating there, that the brotherly connection there, I think, just gets me with Revenge. It's the, yeah, every time I think about that scene, there is a bit of me that chokes up. That's a bit like,
yeah.
So I'd give it a 9. A 9.
Fair. I'm just trying to think in context of all Star Wars, because there's other things. I was like, I would rate The Mandalorian 10 OKs.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was like, I think it's not close enough to be 9.
Okay.
I don't know why I have to justify this, but I feel like I don't want hate comments coming at me telling me that it's a 9.
I'll probably get
an 8
saying that Attack of the Clones is a 2 or something. So.
Huge like downplay there, but yeah. I mean, 6.5 is really high, but hey.
Strong. Cool. So that wraps up this podcast, our final of the 3 volumes on Star Wars. Next week, Luke and I are going to talk about Wonder Woman 1984. So follow us on Twitter @ConsistentlyPod. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. Thanks very much, Harry, for joining us again this week.
No worries. Always a pleasure.
Yeah,
good to hold up this end of the bar.
Always
you got abandoned.
We'll welcome you back at some point. I'm sure there'll be other occasions that you'll just appear in the Zoom chat. You'll just
to be honest, I think it might be interesting if you just drag me into something I haven't seen, because then who knows what will come out of my mouth? It could be anything.
We'll do it, but we won't tell you which one it'll be. You'll just appear.
Like next week, you free? I'll be like, yeah, sure. It'd be brilliant.
Everybody, stay safe. We'll catch you next week. Bye for now.
So long.